song.
Sherry. Sherry's so Arthur will have to
Readjust.
There you go.
Yay.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to move it because Arthur and Brian probably have it all nicely situated. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I am confident we will enjoy Arthur's program.
Oh boy.
And if you wouldn't mind helping me, I'm going to hunt and peck at the piano while we sing I Love to Tell the Story. And we're going to sing verses 1, 2, and 4. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
1, 2, and 4. Okay. If you grew up in a church like I did, this was something we sang quite often, and the words are really very meaningful, especially I like the last verse. So we're going to sing 1, 2, and 4. Okay, Bonnie?
And I also wanted to let all of you know that we have Hanson Emmanuel here this morning assisting in every capacity necessary. And without further ado, Arthur, would you like to come forward?
I'll have a devotion.
My bad. I'm sorry. You're right. Andrea has provided us with the devotion that Sherry is going to read for us. My apologies. Thank you. I wouldn't mind, but I have you down here too.
Anyway, okay. And it had, the title of it is, We All Have a Story. And I didn't know about that when I chose the hymn. We all have a story, a tale to be told, of the joys we've experienced and the hardships we've known. Sometimes we wear them on our sleeves for all to see, but often they're hidden as deep as they can be. So let us be kind, for we never truly know the struggles and the battles that others undergo. May empathy and compassion be the guiding lights we share, and may we always remember that each story deserves care. For in our human journey, we all need love and grace. So let us be kind to one another and create a better place. Amen.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Andrea. That was very pointedly, I think, appropriate. Now, Arthur, would you like to
Where is he?
come
I
forward?
haven't seen. Oh, here he is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. First slide, please. Thank you. So, can anybody
teach you
tell
the
me the name of the
microphone,
song?
Mike.
All right, here
It will pull off.
It'll come off.
we go. What's the name of this song? And who wrote it? Anybody? Okay. It's a song by the Impressions, 1952. It's called People Get Ready. By Curtis Mayfield. What you're looking at here is the high-speed train in Taiwan. If any of you have ever heard of it, it travels at 300 miles per hour. Kilometers per hour. And so it shows this slide as the opening for my rather complicated title, The Long and Winding Road, A Prodigal Son on the Road Less Traveled. Next slide. So, this is the guy here who, let's go back to 1967. I'm just graduating from high school, and the caption under my high school picture was a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, which was a quotation by Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher from the Taoist tradition back then. I think he just underestimated slightly the 1,000 miles. It turns out that it was a little bit longer than that. So, let's go to the next one. Up on the upper left is Lehigh University, which is the university that I attended in Bethlehem, PA. And I started out immediately with great difficulty. Engineering school, which was not an easy thing to get involved with there, required a 2.0 GPA in order to continue on in the program to be attained by the end of the first semester. I pulled a 1.7. So they put me on probation immediately and said, if you don't get over 2.0 by the end of the first year, you're going to be kicked out. So I kind of channeled Frank Sinatra. Each time I find myself flat on my face, I pick myself up and get back in the race. Managed to get through the first year with a 2.01. So that set the stage for, okay, so this is now 1974, and there are two pictures here. I happen to be the guy on the left, by the way. The other guy is, this is what we looked like back in those days. The fellow on the right, by the way, that's Todd Rundgren. He's a famous musician. I wasn't so famous. So somehow or other, a New York engineering firm hired me to go to Algeria, looking like that. To this day, I don't know how that ever happened. Anyway, that's my passport photo from 1974, and that's Todd, who once sang. I can't remember the name of his songs. Anybody know Todd Rundgren? Doesn't matter. Okay, next slide, please. So here we are in See the Marketplace in Old Algiers. That was the first assignment I had to build a railway across the. Pardon me?
She wants you to sing it.
See the marketplace in old Algiers. Send me
Wow.
Alright. It's 1974, we're in the city of Algiers in Algeria, and I immediately contracted food poisoning once I got there. There was no representation whatsoever for American workers, so they had to transport me to the Swiss embassy, where they gave me an enormous shot of penicillin in my backside. I had spent 2 days writhing in agony on the floor of my hotel room. And so that was my first railway engineering consulting experience, was agonizing on the floor. Just for more historic reference, we can see that that was the time when Nixon resigned, in case anybody was remember that. Okay. From that experience, then my next one was over in a toddling town. You wanna? No, we're not going to go that far. Rock Island Railroad. Rock Island Line's a mighty fine line. I was called in to work on that project to try to resuscitate the railroad, which was in receivership, meaning it was failing. And so we worked a couple of years to try to keep the railway going, and we failed. As most of you may know, the railroad doesn't exist anymore. We got only $9 million from the federal government, which wasn't enough to resuscitate the broken tracks. But Chicago itself was an interesting place to live and work at minus 10 degrees. Thank you. My next assignment was in Khartoum, Sudan, in Northeast Africa, which is a rather remote, desolate place to try to build railways. We were tasked with upgrading the existing railway system, which you can see over here. Was in a bit of somewhat disrepair. An old British system that was 42-inch gauge, and our job was to produce a study as to how to redesign and upgrade the railway. So I go out on the desert, and I'm in this high rail vehicle, which is basically a car on top of the tracks. And it's a single track, and we get stuck out there in the middle of the desert, and we're unable to go forward. It's going to take a couple of days to clear a derailed train in front of us. We can't get around because there's only one track. So that's when I learned that, well, they bury you out there in 24 hours. And I had run out of water, and I was really quite nervous that I wasn't going to make it out of there, actually. But as you can see, I did, by virtue of me standing here. So that was, adding to the excitement of my railway career. Thanks. Now we cut to 1984, and I think some of you may remember Horace Greeley's famous advice. I'll read the whole thing. It's Washington, D.C. is not a good place to live in. The rents are too high, the food is bad, the dust is disgusting, and the morals are deplorable. Go west, young man, go west and grow up with the country. Which happened to be what I did next and why I'm not here. Okay. So here we are in LA. It's 1984. It's 40 years ago to exactly. I've now become the prodigal son, who's on this journey away from my family and so forth. And, by the way, there are two meanings of the prodigal son, or a prodigal person, which now that you pointed out to me, I should mention. I always considered to be the one who returned after a long absence. There's another one, which is a wasteful, extravagant person that gets into a lot of trouble. That was actually me. Okay. So we may remember from 1984, that was the year of the Olympics, which are now going to be repeating. Is it this year?
Yes.
1928. 2028. All right. So, this is the first project that I worked on here in LA. It was then called the Long Beach to Los Angeles Rail Transit Project. which at the time was the Blue Line. It's now been renamed as the A Line, in case anyone is transiting from downtown all the way to Long Beach. That was a 7-year project, which got me in some trouble as well, but I won't mention. Okay, next. So then in 1990, I had an offer to go over to work in Taipei, Taiwan, and this is sort of the one of the big transitions in my life, actually. On the left side, we can see a sort of overall map. Taiwan is a little tiny island there just off the coast of China, 6,800 miles away. And the island itself looks like this. It's about 300 miles long. And they engaged us American consultants to build a brand new MRT transit system for the city of Taipei. The year was 1991, and this was the anniversary of the 80th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of China, which is distinct from the People's Republic of China, which is mainland China, which is communist. So at that time, the Taiwanese were celebrating 80 years of having become a democracy, and they had an enormous parade down one of the main streets in Taiwan, which has no longer taking place due to the pressures coming forward now from the mainland, who are not comfortable with the Taiwanese demonstrating in such a manner. Okay, so that was the last one of those. The Grand Hotel, which is a landmark hotel in Taipei, Taiwan, was a place where, ironically, my paternal grandfather had traveled during his retirement to meet up with Madame Chiang Kai-shek. This is a hotel that's not far from where my wife and I have an apartment, and it is a rather magnificent structure. I was quite amazed that that he had actually been to this place. Maybe it was a foreshadowing of my future years to come in Taiwan. Okay, so this is what happened next. This is a guy and his new girlfriend. Her name is Julie. I'm trying to get her to come over here soon to meet all of you. We both look a little bit different than from this picture, but we were married in 1993 in Taipei. And go to the next one here. I think I looked a little different there, yeah. So what did we do? We built this, we designed and built the Taipei Metro Rail transit system. Prior to this map of railway lines, there was nothing in Taiwan, in Taipei for mass transit. So this is somewhat analogous to what we have here in Los Angeles, which is to say a network of mass rapid transit. So I was on this job for about 7 or 8 years, and this guy came along. All right, and his name is Richard, and he's now 26 years old, and he's in the film business, and I'm hoping to connect him a little bit with Brian going forward, having now just seen his magnificent setup up there. Maybe you guys can work together at some point to do some films. He's quite avid in this profession. Doesn't look like that anymore either. Right. So what happened next? Okay, so in 1997, as some of you may recall, that was the year of the handover of Hong Kong from the British back to the Chinese, with a 50-year interval allowing for what's called a special administrative region, or 50 years of gradual transition back from British ownership into full Chinese ownership of Hong Kong by the year 2047. Chris Patton was the then Prime Minister, and the handover took place on July 1st, 1997, which ended 156 years of British rule. As some of you know, the consternation that has arisen, since this handover is getting much more evident. People are being removed from Hong Kong now for political reasons. I won't go into that too much, but keep tabs on it. Hong Kong is already effectively a Chinese city and society. It's no longer really a democracy as we once knew it. But I did work there for 5 years, and this is the train system that we built, which is called the Hong Kong West Rail Project. It's on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong, and it transports people from the city out to some of the suburbs area where it's become somewhat of a suburban railway. In 2002, while I was still living there, we had a SARS outbreak, which turned out to be rather serious and rather tragic for many people. I think a couple of thousand people passed away in the first year. It is said that the person, it was a doctor actually, who came in from mainland China carrying the disease. He resided on the 9th floor of a hotel in Kowloon, and it's considered that somehow the inadequate plumbing system of that hotel contributed to the SARS transmission in Hong Kong. We lived just across the river from the Prince of Wales Hospital, where people were going in and never coming back out. It was really quite a scary experience, and the origin of the COVID, I think, is that we know today. Okay, then on to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. That is the Petronas Towers, if anyone's ever seen a picture of it. I had an office on the 55th floor of this structure, which at the time happened to have been the tallest building in the world. That was in 2003. And now I think it ranks somewhere around the 20th or 30th tallest building in the world. So a few changes since then. The map on the right shows a map of peninsular Malaysia, which is in the tropics. KL is the main city of Malaysia, the capital, with Singapore down at the bottom on the equator. So here we are in Malaysia. Okay, so that project did not happen. That's why I just switched to the next slide. We're now in Bangkok, Thailand, and this is King Bhumipol, I believe his name is. And he wished to create a railway from the main city of Bangkok out to the airport, which at the time didn't exist, so they brought Siemens in. Siemens is the German company that I worked for many years. And we designed, actually I was the proposal manager on that job, and we sold the Thai government the railway mechanical engineering and electrical engineering system for a total of $250 million, of which I got nothing. It was my greatest success, actually. Talking about track here. Let's see. It was my greatest success, and I found out later that what I should have done was ask for a small percentage of that to $250 million, and then I would be living in Beverly Hills. I didn't know that until later. So let's have another slide here, please. That's the railway that we built. It's called the Airport Link Railway from Makassar to Suvarnabhumi. That doesn't mean anything anymore. And it's basically a standard MRT type conveyance that gets you from the main city out to the airport directly. Next assignment, Sydney, Australia. You know, the bridge on the left is the Sydney Harbour Bridge, historic structure that's still standing after 100 and some years, doing a little bit better than our bridge in Baltimore. And of course, the structure on the right is the Sydney Opera House, which is a fabulous place to go and sit outside and eat oysters and swill white wine. Janet, you'd love it there. Why was I there? Not to swill the white wine, actually, but to build some railway cars in China, actually, for an Australian company that dispatched me to Changchun, China, to work in this factory over here and design and build railway cars to be then transported to Sydney, Australia. What's interesting, I think, about this one is that whereas in America we have great difficulty in getting set up these big kinds of manufacturing plants, this whole thing was designed, built, and constructed within 4 months.
Wow.
And it's a statement as to how the mainland Chinese are very well organized in terms of their resources, manpower, equipment, and funds, and so forth. And by the end of that 4 months, they were able to produce 1 railway car per day, if you can imagine that. This was a 626 car order, so spanning a period of, say, 2 years, they were able to dispatch to Sydney 1 railway car, like you see, per day out of that 300-meter long factory. So it's a pretty impressive technology that's owned by the Chinese. All right, back to Taipei, which is my second home nowadays, where we were commissioned to do a similar railway from the main center of the city out to the airport, which was known as the Taiwan Airport Rail Link. At the time, I was still working for the Germans, for Siemens, and we were bidding against the Japanese to design and build this system. We lost, all right? Had to channel Frank Sinatra again. Who won that job? That was the Japanese that had better connections, actually, to the Taiwanese government than did the Germans. So after that job was awarded to our competitors, I had to leave again. And now we are in the country of Doha, Qatar, which is a very, very wealthy piece of land sticking out from the Persian Gulf just across from Iran. This assignment involved building an MRT railway system for the capital city of Doha, along with some stadiums for the FIFA World Cup, which took place in 2022, happening to have been the first soccer World Cup to be held in the Muslim and Arab world. I just need to note, without going into any big detail, that there were considerable number of human rights abuses that took place in this country during the time when these stadiums and railways were built, particularly involving the labor that was imported from countries like India, Pakistan, and the Philippines. It's really a tragic thing where I think almost 1,000 workers perished during the very, very extreme conditions that they had to work in Doha, which can get up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's just a little political message that I'm putting out, but we were very, very concerned and, disappointed with the way in which the Qatari rail people operate in that project. We can have a look at some of these folks. So here they are touring one of the first trains that was built. These were rather difficult folks to work for and with, honestly. Well, as you may know, that the Qataris are right now rather intimately involved with the Gaza negotiations, trying to broker some peace between Israel and Gaza and the Hamas, which is a great thing, actually, to me. Any peace agreement is a good one, and I hope that they can facilitate, the release of the hostages in that very, very difficult conflict. So, now this is where I got in very, very far over my head. This is a $2 billion project to design and construct in the city of Doha, on the left, a multi-layered transit system and depot and parking garage and rail station, involving 12 trains coming into this area from different directions. Honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing. Someone thought that I would be the right candidate to run this project, which I did for a while, but my role was limited to hiring some people and writing some management reports. After that, they got rid of me, which was a good thing because I have no idea how you do this. I really don't. So sometimes we get in over our heads. All right. So now we are in Saudi Arabia, which was my next assignment, and that's the Kingdom Tower on the left, a rather iconic structure that looks kind of like a big bottle opener. And on the right is the residence of the Saudi prince. You may have heard of Mohammed bin Salman, otherwise known as MBS. And his house was right around the corner from my place, okay? Now, to get around his house, it's a drive in a car of about 10 minutes. That's how big his house is. I was sharing a small apartment with 3 other guys, about the size of this area right here. So a slight difference there between the accommodations. This is what will open in Riyadh in 2024, this current year. This is what we designed prior to my leaving. The women on the left are wearing what is called the traditional abaya, which is a full-length black garment, absent any covering over the head and the eyes. And that is what all women in the time that I was there were required to wear whenever they went outside. Then, okay, on to Istanbul, Turkey. As some of you may know, there are 2 halves of that city, one of which is on the Asian side and one of which is on the European side. We're looking at the Blue Mosque here, which is a rather wonderful place to visit, actually. It's been there for, I think, over 300 years. It's open to the public, and it's on the European side. This was a project to build a railway underneath the Bosporus Strait, which is the waterway that you see that goes between Europe and Asia. It's a railway tunnel with a Korean-built set of rolling stock that goes sort of between those 2 bridges, somewhere in the middle there, between the 2 halves of Istanbul. I didn't do real well on that project either. Next. Back to Saudi Arabia, where we are now in, as some of you may know, the Saudis, there are 2 principal cities in Saudi Arabia. The city where Muhammad, the Prophet, was born and the city where he died. Mecca being the city where he was born, and Medina, where he passed away. This is the Prophet's Mosque, which is in Medina, which is where I live. Our mission there was actually to produce a study as to the transport options for people that are coming as pilgrims, actually, from other countries to attend the, what's the name of the holy ceremony in Mecca every year? Everybody knows? The
Ramadan?
Hajj. Well, it's the Hajj. Yes, the Hajj. Very good. And these are, of course, two cities that we as non-Muslims are not allowed to go into. We did have a special allowance within my consulting firm to live in the city of Medina. I could just relate one small story there. My boss at the time was a vice president from New Jersey, a woman who women are not allowed to travel around the city unaccompanied, and it's actually against the law in Saudi for any man to be in public in the presence of a woman who is not related to him, either as a wife, mother, sister, whatever. So she asked me, would you take me around the city? Because I can't go out there by myself. And so I said, okay. And so I escorted her on several evenings, and we went around. And then I realized a little bit later that, I was at risk of being deported because she was not of blood relation, to me personally. So that's the sort of laws that exist in Saudi. They're rather archaic, I would say. But we didn't get caught and survived that one. Next one, please. All right. And okay, my last assignment was just prior to COVID in Manila, where we were building, and they're still trying to build a railway from the old Clark Air Force Base down into the city. The reason I put this slide up was because my dad landed with MacArthur in 1944 on the island of Leyte in the city of Palo, which, if you look it up, is the principal landing area of the 6th Army, I think it was. He wasn't in the first wave, but I think the second or third wave he came in there and fought on behalf of the Filipinos for the liberation of the Philippines from Japan. He got very sick there, but managed to survive the war, and that's pretty much why I'm here. And so I just put a couple of quotes up here. So I was homeward bound after the COVID in 2020, and I've been back here ever since. I like this one from Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary of doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And but perhaps a more relevant one was from a church I saw around here someplace. Love thy neighbors, no exceptions, which I happen to like, and I don't think it's biblical. All right.
Oh, yes, it is.
Can we cite a chapter and verse for that one? All right. So, thank you very much for your attendance. This is, as you may recognize, that's Anne Frank. All right, and she had this wonderful quote: "How wonderful it is that no one has to wait, but can start right now to gradually change the world."
Wow.
This is my impression of Rick Steves, if you there was one more from Mahatma Gandhi. I think he said, "Be the change that you wish to see in this world."
Amen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Does anybody not have any questions? Okay, by the way, this song, just listen for a second.
Oh, what's that?
Cat Stevens.
Name of the song?
In Riyadh, the sun was shining and the pavement was wet. Can you explain that?
Anyway, I love that song. It's it just gets to my heart. We're all in this. The underlying message here, by the way, is from the first and the last songs, is that a train is a kind of a metaphor, if you like, for a journey that we are all on spiritually. And you don't need to take it, you just get on board. All right, which I happen to think is just a great way of thinking about where we're all going in this world together. Okay. Yes.
I was just wondering if you had anything at all to do with the channel, English channel.
The English Channel, well, that's the,
Talk into the microphone.
Mike, Mike, please.
yeah,
Yeah.
the answer is no. Well, that's called the Eurotunnel, is it not? From main, continental Europe over to London, which I've ridden once, actually. It's 26 miles or something. And the answer is no, but many of the companies that I've worked for were involved in that railway construction. Yeah. All right, Cedric.
Oh, yeah, I think it was not Riyadh, the Medina. The pavements were all wet and the sky was blue.
What, in my slide?
In the slide, yes.
Well, that was a touch-up job that I just did. Actually, there's no rain there. I lived and worked there for about a year. I didn't see any rain whatsoever. In fact, it looks quite a bit like your 29 Palms out there. It's desert.
Well, maybe the paving was polished marble.
Oh, yeah, that could work well.
I think
then.
so.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought it was.
Okay. Right. Anyone else? Yeah, Sylvia.
I'm not a world traveler at all, but in the United States, do we have any modern trains like that?
Great question. In answer to your question, the answer is no. Let's go back to the first slide for a second. Minus the document. Yeah. I think you're speaking about high-speed rail. This is an image of the Taiwan high-speed rail trains. And it's an interesting question. Back in 1979, I was working for a consulting firm in Washington, D.C. We were studying the development of high-speed rail in 6 different states in America. California was one, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, Ohio, and one other. Those plans virtually never got off the ground, except here where we are building a high-speed system, and it is facing huge financial difficulties and may never be completed. But that's the type of system that it would be, which is to say, Sacramento to San Diego with trains that speeds up to 300 kilometers per hour. I hope someday it gets built, but it's now running into many, many billions of dollars.
Is that the one they call the train to nowhere?
Yes.
That goes in the-
Yeah. I think that's a nickname for that particular system. Yeah.
Do you know if the one that's going to go from Ontario to Vegas is a high speed?
Yeah, we call it the Gambler's Express.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first got to LA, I was offered a job with a Japanese company that were married together with the First Bank of Boston, and the job was exactly that, to build a railway from LA to Vegas. The job collapsed, it never happened. So 40 years later, here we are reinventing, that railway, which many people question as to its necessity. I mean, why do we need to hustle gamblers out there back there? That's for you guys to decide. But anyway, rail transport. Okay, so just to mention, these high-speed trains now exist in many, many countries around the world, particularly in Europe and in East Asia. There must be 15 countries that have these systems. They're wonderful. You can get from the top of Taiwan all the way to the bottom in an hour and a half. Indonesia has just initiated its first high-speed rail system. And from that point of view, we are very, very backward in terms of global high-speed rail development. Yeah, the great trains to ride. I just rode one in January down to the tip of Taiwan. Okay. Yes, Patty.
I wonder about monorails. I mean, we have it at Disneyland, Disney World.
Yeah.
Do we have any other here?
This is interesting. We have the Olympics coming up in 2028, and I had read that they wish to create a new train from the San Fernando Valley down into West LA. There were 2 proposals on the table, one of which was a monorail, which would go up over the hill and then down into UCLA area. The other proposal was a tunnel structure going underneath that mountain, and I don't know where that got to. But the goal was to have a transit system built and operable by the time that the next Olympic Games arrived in Los Angeles. Yes, sir.
I was going to say that it seems like one of the things holding back high-speed rail in the United States is the old legacy rail system for freight trains. Because most of these high-speed trains are on dedicated lines. They're not shared with freight railroads, which basically own most of the railroad structure in the United States.
That's a good point. Actually, I'll just go back to the Long Beach, Los Angeles system that we built. Why did we choose that, or why was it the first MRT line to be constructed in LA? Because it was a joint ownership. It was an existing railway of 16 out of 21 miles that was already there with a dedicated sort of right of way. And it was easy to acquire the land necessary, the remaining 5 miles to build that thing. But freight rail, of course, is a very different type of structure as is high-speed rail. It's along with a lot of other factors that are different. So, but yeah, I don't know. Does anybody have a couple of extra $1 billion to contribute? I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, the biggest problem with the completion of the California system is that it needs to come through the Tehachapi Mountains, a distance of something like 37 miles, which is a huge tunnel boring exercise involving foreign tunnel boring machines and a huge expense that no one seems to be able to fund. All right, so, and that would be the ideal way to get in from the valley into downtown LA. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I think perhaps it'll end up just being a railway in the San Joaquin Valley, and that's it. At grade, no tunnels. I don't know, but it's an interesting point. Yeah. Okay. Right. I think I've overextended my welcome. All right. Okay. Thank you very, very much.
You were wonderful. I don't know about all of you, but I certainly learned more in the last hour than I even knew existed.
I'm happy to be your teacher today.
Yes, and this is a small token of our appreciation for your presentation. And Jan, do you have your sign-up sheet yet?
I
Or-
do.
Okay.
Do.
Do you want to come up and share your details with us, or shall I
Okay.
bring? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really do appreciate it. Here, I can probably bring this to you.
Well, I hope you're all aware that the rummage sale is right around the corner. Yeah. And we have, I have flyers that we'll have out in the gym. And hopefully you will take a handful of flyers and hand them out to your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, anybody you think might like to come visit our rummage sale on April 20th. And we have 2 sign-up sheets. And one is for making cookies for a rummage moving Sunday luncheon. Patients Guild is providing all the sandwiches and stuff. And then dessert is whatever the congregation contributes in cookies. So that's one for the Sunday luncheon. And, which is April 14th, right around the corner. And then we have our wonderful bake sale department. And as you know, Dawn used to provide a whole lot of what we sold, which is not happening this year. So we're hoping that people will sign up to bring homemade goodies to sell at the bake sale. And it's nice if you bring it the day before so that we can have it all set up, because a lot of people, that's the first place they go when they get to the rummage sale. So they run to the bake sale shop. So we want to have it all set up and ready. for our customers. So there are 2 sign-up sheets, and we'll pass them around at the tables, and please sign up. Okay, April 20th is rummage sale day. And you know, while I'm here, I'm gonna thank all the people who have been helping. It's just, we have the best rummage sorters ever. We are close to being ready for this grand event. So I hope we get a good turnout and make a lot of money for the church.
Thank you.
And you'll see our wonderful luncheon hostess, Deborah Walden, just came in, so I bet that means lunch is ready for us to move to the gymnasium. And I hate to put Patrick on the spot, but I know he'll handle it. As many of you may already know, Don Sanders' journey here on earth is nearing its end. And Judy and Dawn could certainly use our prayers. So could you just possibly lead us in a comforting prayer for them and for us to keep them in our hearts?
Certainly. Let's pray. Thank you, God, for all of the gifts of life. We are especially grateful for this church and all of the life that we experience here. Our hearts are heavy because we are thinking of our friends and your servants, Don and Judy Sanders. We especially want to lift up Don to you. He has meant so much to so many here and has had such a positive influence on this church for so many years. And we're so grateful for his life and his gifts to us and how freely he shared those with us. And our hearts are filled with gratitude. We're also filled with sorrow over his loss. And we ask that you would comfort us and comfort his family and give him peace and calm in these last few hours. And we just don't know what else to do except to give him to you and ask that you would help us to be strengthened, to be of support to Judy and the family. And we pray all of these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Patrick. So, everyone have an appetite? Let's head to the gymnasium.
Has everyone bought their ticket?
No, I have not, but I will.
I got you.
Okay, and